My name is Brian Miller. I am the CEO, Director, and Co-founder of Astra Exploration, and we're currently focused on our high-grade gold-silver deposit in Argentina that we're just launching a drill program here the first week of October. Following up initial drill results from earlier this year, we had some very good drill results, very high-grade gold and silver near surface, within 100 meters of surface, 35 grams gold, 8,300 grams of silver in one drill interval, over 200 grams of gold and smaller amounts of silver in another interval. Opened the system completely along strike in parallel veins and regional targets that need to be explored. It's a fantastic time, most exciting time of Astra since I founded it in 2020.
Brian, good to see you, sir.
Likewise, Matt, good to be back.
We saw each other in July 2022. We're older and wiser now, you know. It's official. It's official.
I'll write that down.
High-grade gold and silver, all the right buzzwords, and we'll talk about them in a second. But welcome to London, first of all. We're here on the Michael Gentili Roadshow. You certainly, and you're going to do quite a busy few days bouncing around Europe, talking to investors. And if upstairs there's anything to go by, you're looking forward to it.
Very much so.
150 people or so upstairs, I'm told.
It's a very good turnout, almost standing room only.
Yeah, absolutely. So Michael's involved and invested into your company. When did he kind of put the money in?
Michael's been involved since our first public financing in 2022. He's our largest shareholder. I think now he's about 17%.
Right.
He's been a repeat investor since his initial investment. He's participated in, I think, 4 or 5 rounds of financing now.
Right. Now, he's what he's been doing upstairs with the investors upstairs, just talking through his investment thesis around what he looks for, and there's a few pages of criteria, but the quality of the management team and the quality of the asset, I guess, and the jurisdiction first and foremost for him. So, what was the original sales pitch to him?
The original sales pitch, we were actually focused in Chile at the time.
Yeah.
We had done some drilling on one of our projects there. We had pitched to Michael as a private company, and he said, "Hey, I like the story. It sounds interesting, but I don't know any of you guys. Do your first drill program and come back to me." So we did. He was very impressed with the quality of work, the capital efficiency, and we had good results, which helped. But that's when he wrote his first check for $1 million into Astra in 2022.
2022, right. Okay, and now we're focused in Argentina.
We did. We picked up another project in Argentina last year. So just a little over a year ago, we signed the deal. When markets were tough for all juniors, we were faced with a decision, and that was either continue drilling the project we had in Chile, and the next phase of drilling there needed basically half of what our market cap was. And so rather than to blow up our share structure in a tough market, we went shopping. We looked for high quality assets that we could get for very good terms.
Right.
And our head of exploration, Diego Guido, he told me right away when I gave him the criteria, I said, find me high grade, multi-million ounce potential with an existing resource. He laughed at me. He said, you want me to find a unicorn? Yeah. But he led us right away. He asked if he could look in Santa Cruz, Argentina. And when I said yes, he didn't miss a breath. He said, the project we need is called La Manchuria. He was on it 20 years ago as a junior geo. In his mind, it was one of the most exceptional projects he'd been on. He says, this is the asset for us. So it took us 13 months to get the deal done. We raised just enough money to keep the lights on during that time, and the entire team worked for free, didn't take pay. We believed if we could get this deal across the finish line, we were going to be sitting in a special spot.
That's pretty impressive. You put your money where your mouth is, or rather, you didn't take money
That's right.
back to your own intuition here. So I think that's commendable. First of all, very few people do that. I know he worked on it previously, but there must have been a big kind of data set which came with it, which got you over the line in terms of agreeing to this. What did you inherit as part of this deal in terms of data?
There was a lot of data with this. It's had over 20,000 meters of drilling. Since I think the late 90s when it was first drilled. It had a great suite of geophysics. It is a very data-rich project, so we had a lot to work with. And of course, Diego remembered what he had seen when he was there, and he literally reconstructed the model from scratch. And so we did our first drill program earlier this year in April, May, based on that model, and it was exceptional as far as predictive modeling.
Right, and you talk about some super high grades in there. Very nice, great indeed. But in terms of that that model that you put together and the drill targeting and trying to be efficient use of capital. You've used that phrase already in this conversation. Can you talk through that kind of that sort of process, because this needed to work?
Absolutely, and that was the primary reason for the pivot into Argentina. We believe that we could create more market value per dollar raised. So it's all about controlling dilution. And so we did a very modest drill program, 2,500 meters and 11 holes. It was very much a proof of concept. And the idea with this is that there was a bigger vein system there than had previously been understood. It was not drilled very deep, on average a little over 100 meters. The deepest holes were less than 200 meters.
With diamond or?
Diamond.
Okay.
Yeah, most all diamond.
Interesting. Okay. And when you say there's this, like, you've reinterpreted it, or your team has reinterpreted what people previously thought was there. So again, on the basis of what sort of surface work were you doing to kind of back that thinking up?
I think what it primarily comes down to is depending on the strategy of the company, it's going to shape your way of thinking and your approach of how you look at this. And you look at things through different lenses. This had previously been looked at through the lens of a bulk tonnage resource. And so that's what they did. The density of drilling was all shallow. Right. In Diego's mind, the big opportunity here was the feeder zones that had never had yet been discovered. So the really high grades, perhaps thicker grades or thicker structures at depth that had never been identified. So that was the target, was these high-grade feeder zones that had produced these high-grade veinlet systems.
But what's happening outside of that, which led to kind of previous thinking of bulk tonnage? Is it sort of orogenic type stock? In terms of that low-grade, homogeneous, with the occasional high-grade feeder zones?
Yeah, I think it was driven more by corporate strategy.
Right.
The previous operators had, with a number of their assets, had drilled out near-surface bulk tonnage resources and then quickly put them into heap leach production.
Right.
So they were looking for near-surface oxide resources, and this one only had about 40% of the resource that was oxide. And so you had all of this open drill intercept that was primary, but very high grade, and had never been looked at any further than that.
Right. Now, obviously, today's market, in fact, the last 24 months have been fantastic for gold. In your case, silver as well. Obviously, now on a tear as well. You mentioned sort of surviving, kind of keeping the lights on for you and a few hundred other companies. That, and I think I was speaking to Michael earlier, and he was saying one of the smartest things that some of these companies could have done during this period was not drill. Don't spend money unnecessarily and kind of dilute and ruin your kind of share structure, your capital structure as well. You're obviously quite keen to get back and do what you do best, which is obviously drilling. That's fantastic. Your stock has reacted well to the story. What is it about the opportunity that you've been pushing most? High grade always kind of works, but you've got to kind of piece the story together and say, here's the opportunity. So what would you say the opportunity is?
It's a composition of several different factors, and yes, absolutely, the high grade, they're spectacular grades, so they immediately grab the attention.
Yeah.
But the potential outside of the known system is what's really compelling. There's one small area where the drilling has been concentrated. We see opportunity for multiple regional targets that have never been looked at. So a much bigger scale. And then of course, timing-wise with the market, we can't control that, but timing-wise, this seems to be a bit of a Cinderella story.
Well, for sure. I mean, you got to take advantage of moments like this, make hay while the sun is shining, as they say. And I'm not quite sure. Do you think that, obviously producers making a lot of money, getting rewarded, valuations going through the roof, lots of mergers of equals and so forth, and even development companies are benefiting because that money cascades down. When do you think the explorers will start to see the benefit of more of this cash and in fact, all of this new cash is coming into the space?
I think that you're starting to see it now,
right?
But very, very early stage, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's going to take for this stage in this cycle to develop. What I do know is that it seems this cycle has been much slower to develop over the last 12 to 24 months. But there is a ton of free cash flow being generated by producers, and in my opinion, that is going to be one of, if not the most critical cash supply for exploration companies And we do know that these producers are starting to look down the food chain already a little bit further.
Yeah, I think that they've been bulking up on the reserves, and now they need to get after the blue sky, and they got the money to do it. I guess they got to spend their money somewhere, haven't they?
What's that?
They got to spend their money somewhere. You know, do you know what I mean?
They
It's
do.
like they're not necessarily the most efficient explorers in the world. So you're looking at and picking up pieces of some of these exploration stories. But we'll see how that plays out in the next 12 months for sure. Now, look, you just did a presentation upstairs to a room full of people who were, as far as I could see, leaning in, very intent on understanding what the opportunities are. How do you stand out from all the other explorers? What were you saying upstairs which you thought perhaps got a bit more of a reaction?
I think that there's several things that make this stand out. It's a real story. You know, there's plenty of arm waving in this industry.
Yes.
It's a real story with real results, with a team who has proven themselves time and time again. So the people who are involved with this are highly credible. And they've made several major discoveries. They've produced a ton of value for shareholders. They've had several successful exits. So I think that that's one thing that really stands apart. And then having not only Michael Gentili, but a consortium, a small network of high quality investors who are your cornerstone shareholders that collectively with management own 75% of the company is huge. So it's, if you want, you can bring it down to a supply and demand. There's 75% is held in very tight hands. There's only 25% float right now, and we're cashed up for a major drill campaign here shortly.
Right, and talking about the next, you mentioned at the beginning, the drill campaign up and coming is how many meters, how many dollars, however you want to frame it?
We should have a drill on site here this week that we're planning to mobilize.
Yeah.
The plan is to target up to 10,000 meters.
Okay.
We're looking at splitting that up, about 5,000 meters done prior to the end of the year, and then the second 5,000 meters, hopefully in February, but maybe March after the holiday season.
Yeah.
So we should have results out by the end of the year, initial results, and then we'll have a good steady flow of results for the next 6 to 8 months.
So if you look at the kind of historic data and the drilling, the shallow drilling that was done then, so how do you kind of layer in your 10,000 meters? What type of drilling are you going to be doing in terms of either confirming some of the historic or to, you know, stepping out meaningfully?
Mm-hmm. The previous drilling that was done, as I mentioned, most of it was very shallow. So some of the best drill intercepts we had in our first drill program were either right at surface or within 100 meters of surface. Mm-hmm. So we plan to have 2 rigs there. We'll be taking 1 rig and doing step out along the known structures, and then we'll probably take the other drill rig and start doing some testing on some of the regional targets. Okay. So one thing I like about this project, particularly from a marketing perspective, is that I think it has the ability to consistently deliver exciting drill results that would engage investors in any market conditions, but let alone this market that we seem to be in. And then if we do hit on one of the regional targets, that's just a game changer. It takes us to a whole new level.
And what's your understanding of the ore body and how it's, how it looks? Because, I mean, both gold and silver on a tear, it doesn't really matter, but I think gold's probably catching the eye just a little bit more, even though silver's at nearly $50. How does that kind of shape the way that you model, and can you get a choice of, we'll chase gold rather than silver, and silver can be a nice, attractive byproduct, or do you not get that choice?
At the end of the day, we are beholden to whatever the rocks produce.
Right, okay. So there's no separate.
No, and right now the deposit on balance looks to be about 70% gold and 30% silver. Okay. Now, having said that, our best drill hole in this last campaign was 70% silver and 30% gold. And we're not quite understanding why the gold to silver ratio fluctuates among veins like it does. Yeah. But we know one thing's for certain is the fertility is spectacular. Yeah. And it's barely tested. Okay,
we're focused on drilling and results coming out from drilling this year and beginning of next, which is great. Do you think of, in terms of ambition, do we get focused on the matter at hand? Are we going back into Chile? Are we looking at other opportunities?
I think given what we've learned and what we're likely to learn at La Manchuria, I think that the focus is likely to continue to be there. We're not in a big rush to do anything with the Chilean assets, simply because we wanted to see what happened at La Manchuria. But we'll consider what to do with those. Like I said, there's a lot of deep value in those assets. So
Right.
maybe a JV or divestiture or some point,
Okay.
something of that. If we can, anytime we consider doing something with the assets or corporate transaction, it's all about what kind of value add potential can we expose ourselves to while reducing or even altogether eliminating dilution. So that's always the balance. And right now we've got a lot of inbound interest into Chile.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting with small companies with a certain budget, and a kind of portfolio approach. The portfolio approach can be, oh well, we're kind of de-risking because we've got multi-jurisdictional, multi-asset, de-risking opportunity. Likewise, the other side of the coin is, well, that's a ton of money and a bit of a liability in terms of how we spread our money thinly across the portfolio. So you're feeling that there will be some kind of maybe monetization event, whether it be JV, whether it be spin out, whatever, with Chile, but the focus on Argentina is your thing. So you're reassuring your shareholders, we're not going to get it, I guess, unrealistic about what we can do even in a market like this.
Yeah, I think generally speaking. I would add the caveat in there that, and I'll just say this for example. So Pampa Paciencia, we think that the bigger story there is the epithermal system,
Yeah.
right? But it also has a very attractive copper target.
Yeah.
And we're sitting right next door to Spence and Sierra Gorda, 15 kilometers away.
Okay.
So is there a scenario where we might consider drilling that copper target based on the risk to reward scenario? Absolutely. Because you might look at something where you could say, okay, we can drill 2,500 meters for this copper target. And what's the potential if we hit there? What's the
Is that
potential
shallow?
reward?
Is that...
It's not shallow like La Manchuria. You'd be looking at 700 meter drill holes. So 2,500 meters or less, you could probably give a decent test.
Okay.
But those are all considerations that we'll make when and if that time comes. But it's all about what's the dilution you endure. If it's a very small percentage of your company and the potential reward is tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in return, those are the kind of decisions that you make at that time.
Okay. Right, Brian, good to see you, man.
Likewise.
Right, I know you guys have still got investors upstairs. You better get upstairs and sort of rip around the room, and then you've got to jump on a train, get to Paris, do the same thing you get like Groundhog Day, right? You're going to do the same thing every day this week in a different country. It's pretty exciting times, right?
5-day marathon. It's going to be, if they all turn out like the attendance we had here today, it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Well, I'd look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you.